Okay, so yes, incredible greetings. I think me trying to go live on TikTok from the same computer was interfering with my microphone because it kept going out. But as you guys can see from the title, like I said, I wasn't sure if I wanted to kind of just come out right out with it or just kind of ease into it and make a different title. But hey, here's a story time about how the professor survived a heart attack at 42. Yeah, you heard me right. I had a heart attack on Friday. Know that well, you know what? I should have did y'all like I did everybody when I called them. I told everyone, before I tell you this, you must understand that I am perfectly fine. But as you guys can see, I am perfectly okay right now. But yes, some people said that they end up inboxing me and said on my live on Friday that I did not look too good and they were concerned. And I saw that after the fact. They inboxed me, and I thank each and every one of you who reached out and still didn't know exactly what was going on, just knew that I did not look too good on the live. And then some of you guys saw my post that I was in the hospital. So we're going to do a story time and break all this down as far like all the way up to how I found out that I had a very mild heart attack. And before I get to the end, so that you guys like your minds are at ease, there is absolutely zero damage to my heart. So that's a good thing. No damage to my heart. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this and how great is thy God. All right. So I will say that from TV, movies, and things like that, like just media in general, what we may have perceived a heart attack as is not always the case, right? So, I mean, I did kind of have the whole clinching thing, but it's like what I've seen, right? And like my grandmother has had on my dad's side had heart attacks. I've never been like in the room or like there when she's had one, so I don't know like what she went through. And then like her like main heart attacks was more so like when I was younger, so they didn't really talk about those things. I made sure I talked about it with my 12-year-old. But all I knew was grandma had open heart surgery, right? So this is genetics for me, because I definitely don't live, all of the risk factors, which we'll go through. Like they talk about all the risk factors. Like I checked none of those boxes, other than a little extra weight, up in this area, these boobs of mine. But none of the major risk factors, I didn't check any of those boxes. But I do have a history of it on my dad's side, which is crazy because they tend to look at your mother's side. I was like, that's kind of weird. Like they focus more on that. Like when I said, like, it was like my dad's side, it's almost like they brush it off, and they would ask like, well, what about, your mom's side? Like, is it your mom or your mom's mom? And I'm like, why they brush that off? So those are things that I think that medical professionals definitely need to take a bigger look at, especially if there's a lot of people within like a certain side of your family that suffers from it. But to me, I felt like some of them kind of brush that off. But so it is, like I said, it is genetics and it's hereditary for me. I just did not expect it. So here is what kind of led up to it, where I really believe I was actually having a heart attack for a week. Okay. So, God, this all started like maybe like a week ago. I developed this tight pain in my belly button and around my belly button. And it felt like someone was ripping my muscles away from my body. I have felt that somewhat before because with Zion Imani, some of you guys know, like my son was a preemie, and part of him coming early was my placenta started to separate, and it was kind of like that. Like it literally felt like someone was like just ripping it from like taking it away from my skin. That's how it felt, like someone's just ripping it. And so I, kind of doubled over in pain, take some pain meds. Like if I pushed in my belly button, or like when I was bathing and I wiped my belly button, it was this weird pain. But I would take like Tylenol. I would take pain meds. It'll, I didn't really feel it throughout the day. It was like more so like in the evening. Like I would really feel it like around like bath time. So that was going on for a week. I did not find out until after the fact that for a lot of people, that was a sign of an onset heart attack. So then we're going to go, back to this week, which would be last week. Zion Imani had 2 horrible seizures on last week, Monday. So not this past Monday, last week, Monday. He normally has he has epilepsy. Some of you guys know that. And he normally has these seizures, which are called focal seizures. And he just his eyes are still open. Like he can communicate. Like lately he's been able to communicate with us through them. Like, well, the 2 times before this, when he had one, his hand just does this and his leg twitches. So on Monday, he had what's called a tonic seizure. And that is basically where his whole body goes rigid. His tongue basically was like almost like locked into place, like in his airway. his mouth turned blue, his fingers turned blue. And that, like, I have learned to deal with his regular seizures. The first time it was kind of scary. I think one other time it got kind of scary because it was a little bit different. This was totally different, where it wasn't just his left side, it was his entire body went rigid, and he was turning purple. So it only lasted 3 minutes, and we called fire rescue just to make sure, check his vitals, because again, my baby turned purple. Not even 10 minutes after they left, he had another one. So I didn't panic that time. Okay, that just means we need to get to the emergency room. We need to take him to the emergency room because I don't want to take the chance of having another one. And if it is the one where there's limited oxygen to his brain, I don't want that to be an issue. So we got him to the emergency room. Fire rescue came again because my mom freaked out. But we told them, like, he's fine now. That one lasted like less than 5 minutes. And that's the key point. Like, if it doesn't last more than 5 minutes, which we can always talk about epilepsy too, because living with a child with that is definitely different. So they took care of him, sent him home same night. But every time he has a seizure, he sleeps in the bed with us, right? So I was okay with one night. Well, then Tuesday morning they get up. They weren't going to go to camp because we wanted him to rest. MJ becomes sick, right? So my mom was like, don't put Zion Imani in the bed with MJ because we don't want him to get sick. If he gets a fever, he can have a fever seizure. Like, it's a risk factor for him. So MJ was sick for literally the entire week. So Zion Imani slept in the bed with Even and I for a week. I was on the edge of the bed. Zion Imani sleeps. Wild is not the word for how my child sleeps. Oh my gosh. Kick, twist, move. The covers, like, I was stressed out sleeping with him for a whole week. And then, of course, my husband, who's used to being next to me, now there's a baby in between. He's trying to get as close as possible. So they literally have pushed me to the edge of the bed, like literally the edge of the bed. I slept like that for a week. So when the chest pain and the back pain kind of starting, was more like an aching, I thought it was just muscle strains from me trying to balance myself on the edge of the bed. This happened Thursday night. Now, although I initially was like, okay, well, it might just be from how I slept, I'm not going to lie. Something told me that it might be something wrong, but I also didn't want to like panic and be like, sometimes we're worried that we're just being paranoid because you're like, well, dude, I don't do anything. Like, when they talk about what causes a heart attack and people that smoke, drink, eat horribly, like, I'm not going to say like the healthiest eater, but I'm not like the worst eater. We don't fry food really at the house. We love our air fryer. Occasionally, I guess the fried food would come from like when I go to McDonald's, like, and I love my French fries. But like none of like the major one, like I eat fruits and vegetables. I'm like, so I'm like, okay, not thinking that anything, not nothing too crazy. Right. So I was trying to block that out. How we ever, mama ain't raised no fool. I definitely said a prayer to the Lord, and it's like, me and him had a whole little conversation. I woke up on Friday. I was fine. Like the pain was gone. I did not feel anything whatsoever. I did decide to sleep in because once again, I was still in the bed with a 5-year-old and my husband. So I didn't really get a lot of good sleep. So I stayed home because the boys finally went to camp and being home with them, when they make a lot of noise and stuff like that. So it's like they finally went to camp. I was like, I'm going to sleep in. I was fine. Came into work. You guys saw me on the live video. I had a class at 6:30. I did a pro call with the lovely Miss Cora. Everything was fine. Like we're just talking and stuff. And then I was like, oh, wait, class is at 6:30. I need to eat something. I went to Taco Bell. Not a bad choice. But so I went to Taco Bell, and within about 30 minutes of eating my food, that same pain came back. Right? So I thought maybe it was indigestion from the Taco Bell. Like, okay, maybe it was like heartburn or something. I'm like, it kind of came on kind of fast. So I still went through, I tried to do like the class. I was saying then that my back was hurting. And then my apprentice that was here, she was like, well, actually was it right before we went live or afterwards? I can't remember which one it was. And so she was like, well, maybe it's just gas, drink something, try and get it, like to try and burp it up and whatnot. Right. So I end up doing the live video that evening, and it kind of took me by storm because if you watch that one, which is still up, you can see where I start to lean over on the desk as I'm showing stuff. I had to brace myself in what I was feeling, right? I was like, okay, well, I just need to hairpin wrap this up, whatever, and get home. There was a tiny voice that said, call your husband. Tell him to get ready to take you to the emergency room. I try to avoid it. I have a phobia. I just really don't like being in the hospital, but I knew something was wrong. And so I called, hopped in the car, and I said, I think I need to go to the emergency room. Some don't feel right. I just want to go because it's the second night that it happened. I was going to go to Memorial. I'm a veteran. He's like, you sure don't want to go to the VA? I was like, okay, fine. I'll go to the VA hospital. We actually have one of, it's said to be one of the best VA hospitals here in Miami. So we get in the car, and from where we live to the main street, it is maybe 8 blocks. I think there's some like weird streets in there. So 8 to maybe 9 blocks. And then we kind of went up because how we're going to get on the expressway. So let's just say within about 10 blocks, about 10 blocks of driving, I felt this pain. Oh, wait. So let me go back and explain the pain, the first pains. So it was a pain in my chest that was more so like burning. And it was burning at first in my chest and then eventually it went to my back. So it was just this burning sensation. And then it turned into like a tight pain. And then that pain turned into what felt like someone was squeezing my chest and letting it go. And all of the blood rushed up to my head. And I felt like my head was a balloon and it was blowing up. That's how that pressure felt. And that happened from me getting to the office, to the house, once I went in the house and, waiting for Even to come out. And then within that 10 blocks, that got like, it was steady for a little bit. And then I had this pain that went straight through here, right? At that moment, I knew what it was. And I told my husband, we're not going to make it to the VA. Get me to the nearest hospital, which luckily for us is Jackson North, which is like literally take the expressway. Like we're there in like a matter of moments. By the time I got to the front desk, I was doubled over in pain. It hit me like a ton of bricks. And they had to end up getting a chair for me because the pain literally knocked me off my feet. So they're getting the information, stuff like that. And they end up taking me to the back, which I know had to be the scariest moment for my husband because they did not let him come in the back while they were doing the triage and the assessment. Here is where it gets very scary in modern day medicine and how things are diagnosed, right? This part for me was the scariest. Once I found out what it really was, everything like before this and how the medical staff basically treats it makes this very scary because you may have people who are having a heart attack and they'll never know. And sometimes they won't do the proper test to find out because when you go and you say like, that's the first reaction. Do you smoke? Do you drink? Do you do any drugs? Do you exercise? Do you do that? They ask you all these questions. And then it's like, almost like people always tell us not to Google, but I swear it feels as if like they take that, like they have this little database. Okay, we're going to check off. Okay, this is the symptom. They said no to this, no to this. Okay, this is what we say it is, right? So they take me to the back. They immediately do an EKG. My EKG is normal, like normal. The second one, they said my heart rate was slowed down a little bit, but the first initial one was normal. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if they took blood work. Yeah, I think they took blood work when I was in triage. And then they scheduled for a chest x-ray. And that really does not do much for your heart. It's like really making sure that like pneumonia and like other factors, but not really focus on the heart. So when they do the x-ray, they tell you that it's fine. Don't take that, take that with a grain of salt. That just means that there are not other factors, but a heart attack can still be on the table. Okay. So they did that. I guess there was no actual like ER rooms, and they put me in observation. So sitting in observation, they had the pulse. So they were checking, they were monitoring only my pulse. And it took, and this whole time, like, I'm still in pain. I'm like sitting, at first I was sitting like in the hallway from triage, because once they brought in someone else, I had to go into the hallway. So I'm just sitting in a chair, and I'm like, I couldn't breathe. Like at that point, the shortness of breath started. So I'm literally going, and these fools ain't check on me. It was homeboy was in the little room. He peeked behind his monitor. Like every time they open the door, I see my husband like there. And so he's just looking at me like trying to see if I'm okay. And then I let him come back, and I'm just, and it would come and it would go. It would clench and it will stop. It would clench and it will stop. It would clench and it will stop. And they looking at me like I was what's that now about Grammy? I was an Oscar-winning actress. I'm like, hello. So then eventually they roll me back. I'm going past all of the emergency room beds, right? And I'm going around the corner. So all this time going around the corner, I go to observation. I'm sitting in there, and I called to find out, if my husband can come back. They said he can come back. No one knew how to get to observation 1. So we're literally just sitting there. And then they tell me that they're going to schedule a CAT scan. A couple people come in. I think the visual doctor came in. She asked me what was going on, how was I feeling, and she ended up giving me a nitroglycerin pill. I thought the Lord was about to take me because, honey, they said that they warned me that it could burn. They didn't warn me that I would feel like it was a pebble from the pits of hell in my mouth. It literally burned, and it felt like someone was burring like a hot drill through my, like between your, like outside your teeth, like under your tongue. And then when my tongue touched it, OMG, that was, whoo. And so they were scared because they was like, we've never had anyone have this reaction. I was clenching my jaw. I was in so much pain. It was burning. And they was like, okay, well, hopefully your the chest pain starts, because what nitroglycerin will do is basically kind of like open up your vessels to kind of give, it's like an instant one to kind of help with blood flow. If you are like, if you're they'll do that for like a lot. I found out they'll do that for a lot of chest pain, but especially if you're having a heart attack, it's to kind of open up those vessels, right? And so there's like, well, monitor her and let's make sure that the chest pain subsides. If it doesn't, we got to figure out something else, because we definitely can't give her that pill again, because we've never seen that reaction before. And now, again, I don't know if they thought I was trying to now work on my Emmy, but that shit burned. OMG. So after that, they end up scheduling the CAT scan. And before you do a CAT scan, they had to do another EKG. So they do the EKG. Now, this is where it was slightly abnormal in that my heart rate was just like, how they said it was like, it was just a little slow is what they said. Like, it wasn't like anything alarming. It could have been like, afterwards talking, people was like, that could happen with, being like, going through that pain and kind of like the fear, the anxiety, like it can cause, I guess, that or whatever. It was just like a couple different factors. So they go and they do the CAT scan. I have never been in a hospital as a patient, other than to have my 2 kids, and then as a mother to Zion Imani through his procedures. I've never been like an actual patient. I've never had a CAT scan done before. My son has, and now I feel like a horrible mom. I'm like, oh wow, this is what he went through. So they do this CAT scan, and one, it's scary, like listening to that thing go like around or whatever. And then they push, I guess it's the dye or the iodine, whatever it is, your body burns everywhere. Everywhere. I was like, what in the hell is going on? They take me back to the room. At this point, I am still not on a heart monitor. My mother told my husband, well, she asked her, she was like, "Is out here no beeping?" And so my mom told Even, go get them people and put my child on a heart monitor. So they put me on there, and they was like, they kept doing my blood pressure. Blood pressure was fine. My heart rhythm was fine. My oxygen was fine. Yeah, all that stuff was basically like it showing perfectly fine. They had me on the monitors. So then they come back, and I think it was right before the CAT scan or right after. I can't remember that part. But they came back and they said, well, what? And it's like how she said it, right? So she's like, well, one of your results from your blood work came back slightly abnormal. So we want to put you on heparin, which is basically a blood thinner. I was like, I knew what that was. I'm like, okay. So she's like, we're going to run it again just to be on the safe side. So they take some more blood from a person whose body doesn't like to give up blood. And then they came back and was like, yes, your heart enzymes are elevated. Basically, what's called your troponin level they said it was slightly elevated. They kept using that word, slightly elevated, right? So I was like, well, what does that mean? So of course, my mom is going and she's Googling. I end up looking up to make sure, and so it was a lot of factors. Like it could be a heart attack. It could be just like it can release that, a certain way, like with stress, but it's about how it goes down. A heart attack, it will stay elevated versus other things, it can go down. So they're now running blood every 6 hours. But in the meantime, in between time, because remember, I'm not in the actual ER. I'm in an observation room. So they had someone from ICU come over and basically try and, let us know what was going on. He just blurted out, "You had a heart attack." Wait, excuse me? We don't ease into this and kind of like, maybe ask some questions first. You come over here and just say, "Okay, I'm Dr. Such and Such. I'm with acute care from ICU. They called me to consult on this case and you had a heart attack." Wait, what? Huh? And so my mom was like, yeah, I heard, when she was Googling, she was like, yeah, I saw that. She didn't want to scare me. So she thought it was just stress, right? So now I'm like freaking out. I had to get weighed. They put me on the heparin, and I'm literally like, with the nitroglycerin, my heart rate, with the chest pain stopped, the back pain stopped. So now I'm just sitting here waiting. I waited in the observation room until about 7 a.m. And then they moved me to ICU. Not necessarily that I was critical, because I was just like I am now, like I'm fine. They're just running the blood pressure. I was not in a critical state at that point. Around like 9-ish, I want to say, the cardiologist comes in and he says, he's going, no. Cardiologist came afterwards. Around 9 o'clock, someone came to do an echo, which is basically like an ultrasound of your heart to test. They can see like blood flow. They can see the strength of your heart. And they came around like 9-ish to do my echo. Around like 10 or so, or like 11 or so, somewhere in there, between 10 and 11 o'clock, the cardiologist comes in. And so he's like, I'm looking at everything. Of course, everyone keeps asking the same thing. Do you smoke? Do you drink? Do you do any type of recreational drugs? Do you take, do you take any prescription meds? What's your activity level? What's your eating like? What's your stress like? So he's asking all these questions. So he had once again explained the troponin level to me, that it was elevated. But everything else was showing fine. Like my echo, my heartbeat was very, very strong. My husband asked about, would you be able to tell from that, like the test, like checking the arteries? And he's like, no, your arteries are really, really small. So what I want to do is what's called a cardiovascular catheterization. And basically they can either go through your groin or they can go through your wrist, and they will basically put a catheter, put it in. They're going to put some blue dye in, and they're basically checking for blockages. He said initially, he's like, you're 42, you don't have the major risk factors. I'm not expecting to find anything really, he went in expecting to not really find it, but he wanted to do it as a precaution. This is where the professor lost her ever-loving mind, because I'm sitting in ICU, not really in critical condition, nothing other than like the heart monitor and the blood pressure cuff attached to me. And nurses that feel like I'm not one to be weighted on hand and foot. I have control issues. So when they would even let me go pee by myself, which I understand, but I'm like, dude, my husband's here. You really think he's going to let me fall? Like, they didn't want you to go to the bathroom by yourself. Like, they wanted a nurse in there, which someone like me is just not used to. So that was, if they wanted me to keep my stress level down, that was not the way to have someone come in and like tell me that they have to hold my hand while I pee. Girl, go have a seat. My husband is right here, okay? Because for me, I felt fine after that nitroglycerin. So I'm like, I can't see my kids. This is stress. If y'all want my stress level down, I need to see my kids. In ICU, they have to be 16 or older to come into the ICU. So they're like, okay, we'll get you to a bed upstairs. And that's when I felt like I was calm once I knew I was going to a room, although it didn't happen, which sent my stress level back up. But eventually I did get to see my kids. I was ready to go. I was ready to sign an AMA, which is against medical advice, because I'm like, look, if you're telling me this is not critical, like you just want to do the catheterization, just because, again, he's telling me that this is a precaution. Like, I just want to take a scope and go take a look at your heart. You're not critical. I'm sitting up here like, okay, well, why can't I go and come back on Monday? And he's just like, no. So that's now scary, because you can't tell me it's not critical when all my research at this point, y'all know, I research everything. Like, I've read that this procedure is a lot of times an outpatient procedure. So I'm like, okay, what the heck? I'm freaking out now because I'm still in the ICU. I still can't see my kids. They finally get me upstairs. They do the catheterization. He checks the left side, which is your main, like one of the main ones that feeds, blood to your heart. Everything is fine. On my left side, they get to my right coronary artery, and there is a almost complete blockage. However, my body said, did nobody got time for that? We're going to start creating some bypasses and pathways around this, which is why, like, I probably felt the pain. So you have what's called angina. And it's so weird because it sounds like vagina. So you have what's called angina. That's when you do have a blockage, and you can have that chest pain and it not be a heart attack, right? And they will go and they'll prescribe certain things that, they'll tell you to watch your cholesterol, all those things, and put you on a different diet and do all this other stuff so that, it doesn't try and prevent it from closing in even more and build up of plaque in that area. What is an indicator of a heart attack is where your troponin levels are. So you can do certain things and it will release that heart enzymes. It's once it gets to a certain level. And for women, it's actually a much lower level than it is for men, which is why sometimes they kind of brush it off because it picks up at a lower level. And they don't always test for it, which I don't understand. Like, I now need to find out, like, now I have on a mission. Is it that does it require special equipment? Is it more expensive to do it? Because my whole thing is, if someone said they had chest pain, like, why is this not a standardized test for it? Because I later found out that a different doctor said, based off of everything, especially being that my EKG was fine, he would not have run that troponin test. And I'm like, oh, wow. So that was kind of scary in knowing that some doctors will not run it. But he went in and my heart, like I said, had already started to create bypasses around it. So he said that is normally an indicator that this is an old blockage, because your body is already starting to compensate for it and try to work around it. Again, my heart is beating at full strength. There was, like, from the echo, no indication that there would be like this blockage there. And like I said, that's because my body was in overdrive. It was like, don't even worry about it. We're gonna create some other pathways. So because of the pathways, that is an indicator that it is an old blockage and probably hardened, and you would not be able to get the balloon through to put in a stent. So he's like, all I'm gonna do is poke it. If I can't get through it, I'm gonna leave it alone. So he went through, and you're awake. If you ever have to go, someone, you're awake during this the entire time. So me being the person I am, I'm looking at the monitor when it's like this little thing that moves around. It got in my way. So I'm trying to, he's like, sit your behind still. I'm trying to see what's going on because it's a big old screen there so they can watch and see where it's going. Because your veins, like this is thicker than what your veins are. They are really, 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 really small. And you'll know that by when I tell you the size of my stents. I now have 2. So he goes through and he's like, well, I'm going to try and poke it. Well, when he went through, he's like, oh, that went through like butter. So it's kind of confusing for him because it's like it went through too easily for my body to have so many paths around it. And he went in there, he put the balloon in, and then scary moment. We had an Amber Alert in Florida right as they were blowing up the balloon. And mind you, I had already kind of researched all this different stuff. And I'm like, so I knew a balloon. So I'm like, did they blow up too much? Did it bust? Because, oh my gosh, like there was an Amber Alert. So alarms were going off all over the place. And I just knew I was about to meet my maker. And then we found out it was just an Amber Alert. So I was like, shoot, that little prayer I did, because I actually was very calm. I put it in the hands of the Lord. Like I said my prayer, and I said, a lot of times people say, Lord, I trust you, yet they're still silently panicking. I literally put my trust in the Lord and said, to where I was just having a conversation with him, the nurses. I hadn't slept all night long. And then when they give you like the sedation, she's like, okay, you might go to sleep. I said, I probably will, because I haven't been to sleep. I literally did not sleep at all. Like I barely slept Monday. I didn't go to sleep. I was watching everything. And then, he went through, he put the balloon in, he put the stent in. And then he ended up putting another one slight like behind it, just kind of as a precautionary. There was no, he assured me there was no blockage there, but he wanted to put it there, just to kind of help it and like keep that part open. Just to increase blood flow. Looking at the before and after pictures of where that blockage was and seeing the 2 veins, like the smaller ones that it branched off to before and after, was like, OMG, like you can literally see the difference and you're seeing how much more like defined it is. And it looks really, really dark. So I have 2 stents. They are 2.73 millimeters. So that's really, I meant to have my ruler and I forgot, because I have a ruler that has millimeters on it and I have no idea where it's at now. Oh, here it is. Oh no, it's centimeters, but I think how this works is like the one here. I thought I had one with millimeters, but the stent is a stainless steel mesh thing, and it's only 2.73 millimeters, like around. The first one is 18 millimeters, and then there's one behind it that's 8. So that's really, really small. Your vein, like your arteries are actually really, really, really small. And yeah, so they put that in. He was like, it looks beautiful. I'm loving it. He assured me that there was absolutely no damage to my heart. Everything was like pumping. My heart was still pumping really strong, which is kind of jacked up now, because now I'm on a medicine that's actually going to slow down my heart, just to kind of make sure that your heart does not overwork. So it's kind of weird that you have a perfectly working heart and then they slow it down. But I'm like, it's either here nor there. But yeah, so that happened on Monday. So that is what, all of my, my posts and things like that. Your girl had a heart attack at 42. All right. So yeah. So they did one time, and I don't remember. So here's the scary part yesterday. They did tell me at one point, but I don't remember, because I asked and I really blocked that out. But when I went to the VA, because I'm a veteran, some of you guys know, some of you don't know, Air Force, hoorah. So an outside doctor cannot write a prescription for you to just take, like, you can't just like take that prescription like you would take it to CVS or Walgreens or Walmart or whatever, to the VA. A doctor there has to look at your information or whatever, and they have to order the meds. So I went into the VA because I could not leave. Like their pharmacy did not have, their outpatient pharmacy did not have the medicine that I need, which is Brilinta. So they end up writing me a 7-day script for me to be able to take to any store, which is that's $117 for 7 days. And then I had to go to the VA. Well, they end up running another troponin, which I found out isn't like, if they know that you had a heart attack, your troponin level will stay high for at least a week or two. So they shouldn't have run it, being the fact I just got a stent put in 2 days before. And when they did it, they called me back and said, okay, well, we're not sure what's going on because we don't have any record of this. Your troponin level is 0.23, which the doctor there told me it's probably a little bit higher now, because, with them going inside, that's still stress on the heart and it's probably like raised. And then by the time I got back, because they made me come back to the VA emergency room, it was at 0.18. Critical is for a woman is 0.30. So that's where, that's how they kind of knew that it was a heart attack and not just angina. And like I said, angina is just when you have a blockage. You can have a blockage and have chest pain from it, but it's not a heart attack, which is kind of weird to me. It's just that, like, you're going to feel that pain. It's like the tightness of it. But what they use as a differentiator between angina and a heart attack is the release of those enzymes at a high level. I'm like, shoot, that's still like you have that blockage. But people have blockages and you kind of have that chest pain and you may have a blockage, and that test isn't a regular test that they would do for the troponin. And also the catheterization is also not something that they would just they would just do to check. So it's probably a lot of people who have blockages and just don't know it. And that's kind of where your chest pain comes from. Because if it's at 20, 30, 40%, like when the blood flow is trying to struggle to get through that area, it's going to cause that pain. It's going to be some strain on it. Because again, that is really, really small. But it doesn't mean that you had a heart attack when that's happening. They will say, some people, like when it comes to that, like to thin out their blood, they'll put them like on baby aspirins to kind of prevent that. They'll tell you like now that it's not a full on blockage, to change your lifestyle, change your eating, do different things there so that it doesn't continue to close up. So it's basically just like a lot of cholesterol and fats and things like that just kind of build up in your arteries. You can also have it around your heart. So we have to be careful about that. So now it's like, I'm going to use part of my platform and I'm going to have things probably on my other YouTube, just in, changing. If y'all want to be on the road with me to exercising, taking it slow at first and just building up, me figuring out recipes and things like that. But yeah, that's, so when the VA retested it, it went down. When I was in the emergency room, it was like, a lot of times they said like it didn't change. So it was an indicator that it was a heart attack, but it was not continue to go up. And it's probably because like I didn't know as soon as I had that pain. So let's say, had I gone as soon as I had that pain, even if they would have run my troponin, it probably would have showed low. But because it was over several days, it kind of built up and I caught it. So luckily I listened to the little voice in my head and went, because had I waited even longer, then that troponin level probably would have been high to where there would have been damage to my heart. But it was no damage because I kind of went after that second day of what in the hell is going on. Yes, this was the day that I kept saying when I was on the live and I thought that I had gas on Friday, and turns out it wasn't. I was actually in the midst of a heart attack. Yep. Yep. Hey, another Air Force vet. But yes, I feel absolutely amazing now. Like, I think it scares my family that I'm like ready to, like, not to say jump back in. Oh, so with that being said, if you're anyone that signed up for the Creative Business Summer School or the Phone Board Seminar, obviously can't really do that this week. So we're pushing that back a week. My family wanted me to push it back 2 weeks, but I cannot sit in a room. I can't sit, like, after spending 4 days in a hospital room, and every time my bed was nowhere near a window, I felt closed in. I'm like, I need to be able to get out and move. So we will resume the foam board one next week. Oh, you have 2 stents as well. 95% blockage. Yeah, I had a significant blockage. Yes, I'm doing so much better. It definitely was scary. I think I was more, I don't think my family understands. Oh, they may think that I'm not taking it as serious, but when I say I released it to God, I released it, and I did not stress over. I stressed more over being in the hospital and not seeing my children. I have not been away from my children for an extended period of time. Since either of them were born. Only person was like, I can't even say that, because even when I had Zion Imani, at first it was kind of scary, but eventually MJ was able to come to the hospital. So I still saw him. I think when I went to Atlantic City for Impressions was the longest that I spent without my children. And then even God made a way to where I got to see them a day earlier because my flights were delayed. So my family drove up from Miami to Orlando to meet me because I was going to miss my connecting flight. So I didn't have to spend as long like without seeing my children. So I think that was the hardest part. And MJ understood that something was wrong, right? So when even basically just whisked me out of the house to take me to the emergency room, it's like, oh no, mommy's just sick. And he's like, no, I know something's wrong. Like, why is anyone telling me? And my mom didn't want to tell him, even did tell him. And then I had to explain it to him. And I broke down when he was just like, mommy, you got, I just want to make sure that you're here when I graduate, when I get married, like all the important stuff. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And then when they finally were able to see me, Zion Imani didn't understand that mommy was staying in the hospital and he had to go home. He had a whole breakdown at the house. So I think that part was more like that. That part worried me more than like the heart attack part of it. Because, I don't want my kids, like, man. And then of course my husband, I think my mom didn't necessarily show it, but she showed it in the fact that she was freaked out, like this is her child. So I think my family's reaction, and I think because I have really released it to God, they think that I'm not I don't feel like it's like I'm not treating it seriously, but it's not that. I am at peace. And I told MJ, because his daddy freaked him out when he told him about like my medicine. And about me not taking it, and it could how he told him, but it was just like I was like, why would you tell him that? But this is what I told my 12-year-old. I said, I truly feel as if I was chosen, handpicked by God to be a vessel for people to understand the importance of health, not ignoring warning signs, being your own being an advocate to where you really feel. Luckily, I don't know what it was, because once I found out that with some of the things that was happening, a troponin level was not a standard like test that would be run. I was very grateful for whoever was on staff that day to where they ordered that test. So I'm like, for me, I just feel like it was just divine into me. Like, I'm just very grateful for it. So I told him, to be an advocate, like I feel like I was chosen by God. People within our immediate family who drink, smoke, whatever, like they're not eating properly, eating out like all the time, eating a lot of like bad food. They'll get certain diagnoses, or the doctors will tell them things and they kind of brush it off and may not take it seriously. And that's just for a lot of people. Like some of you guys may have gotten, some diagnosis, whether it's like high blood pressure or your high cholesterol, and you just aren't doing like the things that you need to do. And I think when it's somebody that someone that we hear these stories, right? Like, because in 4 days of just sitting in the hospital, except for when I was online with you guys, commenting, I'm like looking and I'm reading, oh, I learned to draw with my left hand because I'm going to make some tumblers and shirts for the people in the cath lab. And my catheter was in my right hand. I learned to draw with my left hand, y'all. Like, that was amazing for me. Okay. Anywho, I'm like, some people just don't take it seriously. And when it's somebody that and it's scary for you to like know that person, like with my cousins, they're like, you're the good cousin. You're the one that doesn't drink, smoke. You don't do none of this stuff. You don't hang out. Like you don't do any of this. And this happened to you. It can be a wake up call. So I told MJ, that's truly why I feel like it's scary, but sometimes people are like scary things happen. Because some people will be like, the devil is a liar. I said, no, God is the truth. I don't put the devil in this anyway to feel like he was attacking my heart. I don't give him demeanor. Like, I look, you're not a part of this. Going on somewhere. We're not even saying you, calling you a liar. Sometimes we rely on that too much. And if we serve a God and we truly, like, sometimes, even though it's scary, we have to understand the assignment of God. So I don't say the devil is a liar. I say God is the truth. And I thank him for choosing me to be a vessel, because I have a public platform and it's something where people will listen, like your family members. Like, they may, we think that it's like an old person thing. Like, even though if you do the research, there's so many young people who have heart attacks at a young age and have none of the risk factors. It's people that work out like every day. Like, man, the amount of notes I have, y'all know I'm a note taker. So like with the sticky cholesterol, and it's like certain things that will cause, like, you can be doing everything right, and based off of your body type, it's like it will build up. Like, it's just so much. And I'm like diving into it. And if I can be a voice for people to be aware of it, like, I just thank God. Like, I'm going to fulfill my assignment that I feel like I have been given. So for me, it's no longer scary for myself. I am more scared for those who don't take heed to the warning signs, who may not, and may think that it's just indigestion or it's gas, and it may end up being severe for them. I'm more afraid for them than I am for myself, if that makes sense. All right. Yes. Amen. Yep. It can be a wake-up call for everyone. God is the truth. Amen. Very important to be an advocate for yourself or have someone who can do it for you. Let me tell y'all, I'm not going to talk about it today, but I got some stories about this experience. I walked away, like my first room, and the person I was with, I did not want to go to my procedure that I knew that would get me home to my children, because I felt like she didn't have an advocate. But that's a story for another day. But I got some stories for this one. So I don't know if I'll do it on these platforms. I'll probably post something, because I do have another channel. If y'all never found it, I'll post it, that has like my birthing, like my pregnancy journey with MJ. I'll probably post it more on there, and I will leave the links. I just wanted everyone here to know that I was fine. But as far as like going forward and just kind of tracking the journey of becoming a better me, I wanted to, like, I'll say this, right? I wanted to drop a few pounds, but I will be perfectly honest in saying that it was not for my health. I want to look better on camera because, and with me wanting to do more in-person classes, it was of vanity for me with wanting to eat better and starting to work out again. Due to the pandemic, I wasn't coaching anymore, so I wasn't as active. Just sitting in, I literally come in every day and sit at this desk, which wasn't my norm. I had jobs before that required me to be on my feet and move around. But a lot, like lately, like pretty much for the past 3 years, a lot of it has been me sitting at a desk, which isn't great. So now I know, and I have to be more conscious of just getting up and moving and doing more things to be active, because I'm not coaching anymore and I sit at a desk. So if you are someone that has a job where you are at a desk, like, it is important for you to do things where you can keep that heart moving, keep that heart rate up, and don't get too lax. You are so right. You have a platform where people will listen. I was on the phone with my sister when I saw the title. I got off the phone to listen. Thank you for sharing. You are very welcome. Well, I definitely have to do it now, because I do have a little extra weight that's contributing to, and then like my son as well. They told him, like with him, like he needs to lose some because it's pressing down on his liver. So it's always a good thing to make sure that you are at a healthy weight for your, like, and what your body can handle. I don't know who that is. I am at work and had to stop to tune in. Well, if you just kind of came in on it, you'll have to watch the rest of it. I gave the entire breakdown of what happened, the warning signs that I felt. Don't ignore things that feel just kind of like, that just feel off. Like I literally now, like I know now that it started and I was basically in the onset of an attack for a week with the pain that I felt in my belly. Wow, it's a lot of comments on here. I will definitely go through all of these comments. Oh my gosh. It's a lot of comments on here. I will have to go through them. Oh, Miss Cheryl, you read the title, so she's like, OMG. So yeah, I will definitely go through. I have to make sure I don't close this out so I can see all of those. I thank each and every one of you for like not even knowing what was going on. Some people said they thought that it was with the baby because some people know that Zion Imani has epilepsy, and they didn't even think that like it was like really me until I showed the one that says Professor Shakia, which was kind of funny when he wrote that on there. And I was like, I cannot wait to take a picture of this and show it to my peeps. But yeah. So if you're just joining, I just told the full-on story time of me having a heart attack at 42 on June 30th, 2023, all of the signs, such as a pulling and tightness. That's where it started at for me in my belly and around my belly button, to chest pains, upper left, like chest pains. And then eventually it moved to like the center part of it. And then I had back pains, and then it shot through my arm. And when it went through my arm is where I knew it to be like, that is the one classic sign from movies, TVs, media that we know as to be an indicator of a heart attack. So once I felt that, I knew I had to get to a hospital. My EKGs and things were fine. My labs were fine, except for, an elevated heart enzyme, which is called troponin. And then that led them to have me stay in the hospital. And I had what's called a cardiovascular catheterization, where they take a tube up and they can go through your groin, or now they'll take it through your wrist and go up through and check your heart, where they found a very significant blockage. And I now have 2 stents in my right coronary artery. Okay. So that's the quick version of what happened. But if you want to hear the rest of it, you're more than welcome to go back and listen. I will leave it up on my YouTube channels. I'm probably going to remove it from Facebook, but it will be up on my YouTube channels. I'll leave it on both of those, Silaholics Anonymous and Honestly Speaking. Actually, I shared it to too many places, so I might leave it up on my Facebook as well. All right. Now that that's done, do know that I'm still the professor, and I still have 2 hours that I've been given to be here. So I have to be out of here by 3. I want to teach. I have been dying to teach. So I will be live right after this to do a Q&A and to teach some silhouette. Don't tell, like, this is what I need. Like, so people like rest. I'm like, this is like, for me, my stress levels to be down, I need to teach. So, it's nothing much to just sit here. So I can't stay. If I go home, I'm not going to be in the bed just sleeping. It's very hard for me to go sleep. They even had to give me melatonin at the hospital. So yeah, I will be on live doing, just real quick. I got to get some stuff together so that I can do some stuff at home. So I'll go home and do the rest. But yeah, I have to. So, all right. Yes, I'm very glad that y'all can see me on this side. And I'm actually going to have so it's just really, okay, wait, before I go, right? So let me tell I will do another one about this. I don't know how to turn off business. I really don't. So I'm in the hospital. And it was like, I heard the nurses talking about like scrubs and stuff. Again, I told you I learned how to draw with my left hand. So I was like looking at certain things, like stuff they were doing. And I was like drawing up like better like options or whatever for scrubs. And like there was someone was saying like there's specific, like certain hospitals have specific colors and like them not being able to find it. So like that's on my mind. There was another situation where one of the nurse, man, it's so many stories. Oh my God, I cannot wait to like just unload all of this stuff. But there was a situation with them trying to take blood because I'm a hard stick, and homegirl hit a nerve, and she hit a sciatic nerve, and I had pain shooting through my neck. but then another nurse came in. And so she was like saying some stuff and I was ignoring her, but I was like, look, leave me be. Like, like, nope, y'all can't touch me. Y'all stuck me 3 times already. Nope, nobody, y'all got to give it at least an hour, 2 hours before y'all come back. Because with me, one person gets a 2-stick minimum, like 2-stick maximum. Like you get 2 tries on my arm. And before you got to call somebody. You're not going to stick me again. And that person, now because you did 2, they don't get 2. They get 1. It's a 3-stick maximum. When you're trying to take blood from me, I need you to come back. Let me drink some water, do something, but you can't stick me more than 3 times. I'm just not going to have it, Captain. And so when she was like, can I at least put the tourniquet and just check? No. I turned my head. Look, baby, you don't know me. When I say no, I mean no. Hello, I told these people I wanted to sign the AMA to let you know I don't play. When I said I want to go, I want to go. But she looked at the board and she said, Professor Shakia, what you teach? And so then I told her, had a whole hour-and-a-half conversation about business and what she wanted to do. So I was literally coaching business from my bed. Oh my gosh. I was literally coaching from my bed on business for the business that she wanted to start it and laying out all this stuff. And she's like, I got to clock out. I got to go. She was like, but I'm finna, she's like, what's your, she's like, you know, I was like, yeah, text the business number. So she texted the business number. She was like, when you get out of here, give it a few days, but don't forget about me. She was like, oh my gosh. She was like, I can't believe, like, she's like, she was literally about to clock out. The text said, well, let me catch this person before they leave. She's the only person that we know that can pull blood from a line. And it was like, it was just amazing in that. And then of course, like I said, I'm like drawing, I'm trying to figure out like, when it comes to like, and then the other part that drove me crazy was like, they will bring you like a toothbrush and toothpaste, like in this little pack and the little antiseptic wash or whatever. And then they're like, oh, you want to take this with you? It's like, if not, we're just going to throw it away. And I'm like, you know how many people could use this? And it's not even open. Like you can give it to somebody else. Like just put it back where it came from. It's like, no, we have to throw it away. So of course, here's my mind. And I'm just like, okay, I got to figure out something like some type of program. Look, I'm gonna need y'all to throw this away. Like you got homeless people. We got a high homeless rate in South Florida. You know, they might like some clean teeth and I mean, just something to wash their twat and their balls and stuff like that. Like we can't be throwing this kind of stuff away. So of course, went into philanthropy mode. I didn't know how to turn it off. I'm like, it's impossible. I don't know. Like, if that is a stress factor for me, I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't know how to turn that off. So yeah, but I will be back on because it's already an hour now, but I definitely want to get in some teaching before I have to go home. So yeah, until next time, guys, have a great one. Continue to unlock your creativity and be incredible. Take care of yourselves. Don't ignore the warning signs. Yeah. Peace.